This is the Skywalker Trampoline model SWTC1511. It's a 15-foot round trampoline, comes from China. Now we've started our unboxing. This is the first box, and I'm unpacking it over there in the driveway, and I'm lugging it over here. This is 3 trips. And as you can see, I'm trying to keep everything a little bit organized. Like, here's our foam rubber, here's our short, straight metal pieces, here's our longer, straight metal pieces, and then these make up the edge of the trampoline. Those holes are where the springs go. Couple of things, my YouTube friends. They give us a couple of tools. One is very helpful, the other is absolutely useless. The helpful tool is this, which is used to stretch the springs from the trampoline mat into the slots in the frame. Very useful, save it. The second tool included in the kit is this Phillips head angle screwdriver, which, given the amount of screws that we have to put in to assembling the base of this thing, if we had indeed tried to use this, our fingers at the end of the day would be permanently stuck in a claw position. There would be calluses and a lot of cursing going on. So the little Phillips screwdriver, we throw into the bushes. And to you fans who have inboxed me and calling me all sorts of names for throwing tools into the bushes, you're gonna have to live with this one. This hook we're gonna save. They've also included a nice instruction manual in a plain brown envelope with all sorts of legal warnings on the outside about children getting hurt and compound fractures and broken backs and even death. And don't do it when you're drunk or on drugs or if your ability's impaired in any way. And so in the instruction manual, you will find included an assortment of little machine screws that we are going to use our power screwdriver to install. There's also a safety placard which gets Velcroed, which gets cable tied or some other mounted at the ladder area so that people climbing into the trampoline can read the safety instructions. And then what we have is a detailed, I hope, the detailed instructions, just follow step by step. The thing I want to stress about these trampolines is it's not difficult to do. It's an easy project. It's just a lot of monotony. Basically, we lay the pieces out in a big circle, and then we start putting them together and following the instructions, install the screws. So it's all repetition, not necessarily any skilled, tricky stuff that you have to do. A lot of repetition. It shouldn't take too long, a couple of hours, and it'll be ready to go. I also have 2 other videos on backyard trampoline unboxing, review, and assembly. They're from different manufacturers than this one. I'll annotate to them right here in this video, and you could be able to click on these annotations without losing your spot in this video. It'll open a new tab, start playing that video, and then you can come back to this one and just push play again. So I will, over here, I will annotate to the first trampoline assembly video, which is actually a very popular video. I think it has 50 or 60,000 hits and a whole bunch of likes. Then I'll annotate to the second, which I think is a VFX trampoline assembly video, right here, which is also a pretty popular video. It's got thousands and thousands of hits and a bunch of likes. Like I said, not dwelling on any one point, just the highlights and going around with my tricks on just getting everything organized and making it work. My Phillips head of choice for this job is what they call a angled driver, and I have a Phillips bit installed. You could get away with a regular battery operated power drill on the low speed setting and the high torque setting, so it doesn't ratchet on you. So you want it on like the direct drive with a Phillips head bit right in the chuck. Well, here's our top tubes. And one top tube has this extra square on it, and the other top tube doesn't. I'll show you in a second, but basically we've laid them all out in a big circle. This is the last one, and you just kind of wiggle it in until it hits home. Here's the other top tube that doesn't have that square piece, which I think at this point is for the safety net. And again, we wiggle it in until it's home. So it alternates every other one. Top tube with square, top tube without square, top tube with square, top tube without square, and so on and so forth around the perimeter Okay, and at this point, the slots for the springs are facing down towards the ground during assembly. We will flip it over later. Hole here. This is the leg extension piece. It's the short piece. But you'll notice one end is a little narrower than the other. It's machined that way. That goes into there. But also there's a little hole. It's actually a screw hole, and we have to line it up with that hole. Okay, if it's a little crooked, you could twist it until it lines up. If it's a little stiff, you could always tap the top end with a mallet to get it down in there. Once it's in there, we're gonna take our power screwdriver and the little screw that they assembled, that they include in the kit. Okay, that's done. Now we have to do it for the other 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 around the rim. Very easy. The screw hole wasn't lining up, so I kind of pulled on the leg extension and pushed down on the W leg, and it popped right in. I'm also bracing the back of this with my knee to give it a little backing so I can push hard on this screwdriver. Same one over here. Just because the ground isn't level where I'm working, or perfectly level, so you gotta force them all the way in. And before flipping it over, double check that all the screws are where they're supposed to be. Everything's nice and secure. These are slip joints with no screws in them. Separate, go to the opposite side. Separate. Simply rejoin them. Now a real sharpie might be asking himself at this point, how come there's not screws in these joints where there's screws in everything else? Well, when this is assembled and the trampoline mat is in there and we have our 98 springs, the springs and the mat hold this whole circle together, so you don't need screws. Okay, see, there we go, nice and snug. But this one, and I like the idea, this safety net is actually pre-installed onto the mat, which should make assembly a lot easier, because the last one I did, that VFX, I had to manually thread with like a 40-foot piece of nylon rope, thread every 4 inches. I had to like sew the safety net onto the mat. This one's pre-installed. Important thing to note is where the warning label is, this warning label, it's the door. And you want that ending up where they're gonna go in and out, which is between 2 legs, okay? Because the ladder's gonna go there. So we wanna orient this when we lay it out on the ground so that the label, which is the door, is centered between the 2 legs. Now when I mean the safety net, which is this netting, is pre-installed to the mat, which is the matting, is they have, these are the spring loops, and what they've done is buttoned the safety netting over the spring loops. So as you go around and lay this out, you want to make sure, because during shipping and stuff, some of them have come loose, you want to make sure all the spring hooks are through the buttonholes in the netting. And so we've hooked our first spring to our mat loop and to the frame slot. What they want you to do is count 24 slots over, which happens to be 2 complete sections over, and put your next spring in a clockwise direction every 24, counting 24 loops and 24 slots in a clockwise direction. And then after that's done, we're going to come and fill them in. Springs in is a good idea because they can snap and get you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And 1, 2. And I got springs in my pocket. Hey, little buddy. So we went around counting our 24, and that's basically 4 springs around the trampoline mat and frame. The next step is we count 12 slots, so we're basically filling in the middle. And I learned a neat little trick to keep place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 slots. I put the spring there to mark it. Come back to my mat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Making sure the safety net is through the button through the loop. Now we're going to proceed around and fill in every one. Now my YouTube friends, all the springs are attached. The mat is nice and tight. At this point, the remaining tubes you're gonna have are the tubes for the safety netting. There's a straight tube, and then there's a bent tube. You can see it's bent. They go in pairs, a straight and a bent. There's also these foam sleeves. What you want to do at this point is sleeve each tube by just sliding it down like so. And the padding should help if anybody hits their heads. It's so much trouble. I have a little all-purpose cleaner in this spray bottle. And I'm just going to spritz this tube, and hopefully it will slide easier. Let's see. Oh, much nicer. Okay, there's a little trick for you. Now, if you notice, on these tubes, there's two ends that have these shapes to them. You can see it's kind of round with a flat spot, and they key into each other, interlocking. Flattens areas. See the flat there? And the flat there. So line up your flats and just kind of wiggle it until it fits inside there. Now, once it's in there, the screw hole will line up. So lay it on the ground and put a screw in that hole. Oh, come on. All 6 of them with the screws installed, and then just slide the foam to cover that. Now, if any of you rip your foam, such as this one got ripped, and I'll tell you, installing the foam, that spray cleaner, the spray soap, helped greatly. I wouldn't have been able to do without that. I didn't want to use silicone or WD because I was afraid it might react with this styrofoam, whatever this is, and make it disintegrate, because it's bad enough the sun's going to be hitting this in the ultraviolet waves. But anyway, some clear packing tape, or some black gaffer's tape, something like that. I wouldn't really recommend duct tape, but those two I just mentioned, either gaffer's tape or clear packing tape, nice and neat, would make this invisible. Besides, the net's going to be in front of this. It's going to be hard to see. So let's move on to the next step. At this step, we're going to install the jump mat, which is the cushioned mat that covers the springs. We're going to lay that around the outside of our trampoline mat and our net, which is pre-installed. But also at this point, while you're walking around, double check that all of those hooks are buttoned through the safety net, and that you didn't miss any as you were putting the springs on. And if you did, just take the spring off, button it through the loop, and put the spring back on. Now that we've laid out our mat, the protective mat on the outside of the trampoline, you want to make sure that there's a You see there's a stitched in gap here. You want to make sure that's over this, where the uprights for the netting poles are going to go. And then this flap or whatever goes over the edge of the outside of the trampoline. This one happens to have a black side and a blue and a green side. We want the green side up because the black side has all of these straps here on the outside and inside, and these straps are going to get tied to the frame and to the mat loops, which I will show you. Well, here we are under the trampoline. We have to tie down that spring covering mat, and then we can put up the net. So let me show you how to tie it down. So you'll notice that there, at each point where there are straps, there's two. One goes on the outside of the frame and one goes on the inside of the frame. You just kind of do you could do like a shoelace knot, you could do like a double knot, whatever, but you just want to knot them. Here's another one on the outside. And they're elastic, so they're stretchy. Now there's also straps on the inside of this mat. You want to make sure you locate all of them and that none of them are hiding on you. And these inside ones, one on each side of the spring loop, and then put your knot. Now work your way around the whole trampoline doing that, nice and tight, and make sure that that pad is laying flat on top. Don't like get it bunched up or too far in and too far out. And check that spacing of those flaps, those sewn flaps, leaves that opening for the net poles. Now all the inner and outer tie downs for this pad are, I think, are tied down. I'm going to go around and double check just by running my fingers underneath, and at the same time I'm going to tuck that outside flap over as I go. Oriented so that the curved side of that pole, the top hooked in, is towards the center of the trampoline. Taking your safety net up at the top, there's this part where there's two straps on the safety net, but also there's an opening here with a hole in it. So what you do is take this green cap, a hole on one side and a hexagon nut on the other. See the hexagon nut? So you want to put the hexagon nut facing into the trampoline, and then line up the cap with the hole in that strap. Okay, the hole in the cap with the hole in the strap, because the whole idea is we're going to take this and put it through here in a minute. Now we're going to take the top of that pole, again with it oriented like hooked in. We're going to slip that cap over the pole and line up the hole in the pole with the hole in the green cap with the hole in the black strap, and then put this through and thread it through to the other side into that hexagon nut.
Oh, you're such an idiot.
Tighten it up. Now repeat that for the rest of the pole caps, but just leave them laying here. Don't do anything with them at this point. At this point, these holes in this mesh, in the safety net, the bracket that the gap goes around in the frame should all line up. If you put the entranceway with the safety label in between the two legs like it said in the instruction manual, if you messed up at that point, you really have to go back and take everything apart again, because the safety net is not going to line up with the poles, which is not going to line up with the brackets. So if you follow the instructions as far as where everything's supposed to go, you should be at this point like I am with no problems. Now it's time to mount our net poles into the frame of the trampoline. Now, as you may have guessed, the square hole, and this is sharp, so be careful, the square hole fits into the square hole on the frame. So basically we're going to lift this up, slide that in there. I'm starting where the door is, where the entrance is, and I'm going to work my way around. You want to make sure the curved part of the pole is facing into the trampoline. See, that is sharp. And although I hit my web belt, if I had hit a couple inches lower, it would have been big trouble. Okay. And as I'm putting these in, with my high hand I'm pulling out, with my low hand I'm pushing in until I line it up plumb with the hole in the trampoline frame bracket, and then it just slips right in. So I'm pulling out and I'm pushing in. Last one. Now this, she's almost done. We got a couple of little things to do. A zipper and the door right in between two legs where there's no cross member at the bottom. And that came early in the assembly to set that up so that everything else would line up. So it's important to follow the instructions. That was in the instructions. Let's finish up the last couple of little things and get out of here. Okay, so those plastic caps go on the bottom of, there's one in place. And then the top, those straps I showed you, you get up there either with a ladder or you climb around, walk around this base here. And what you do is you tie those and pull them tight and tie them into a double knot, and it helps make this screen tighter. And that's it, we're all done. So I hope they have fun with this trampoline, and I hope you all enjoyed watching the video. And as usual, please sub to my channel, because I love helping you guys out, and the fact that you sub to my channel really helps me out with this YouTube gig. Comment, sub, thumbs up, all of that interaction really helps me out. And again, I'm going to annotate to my other two trampoline videos, because all the different manufacturers basically the same way design and the way they go together, although there are very big differences, such as in the nets and things like that. So this guy here took about 3 hours to put together, and no problems. Thanks for watching, my YouTube friends. It's Dino Pinch from the Handyman Zone, and I'm signing off.